Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Hello and welcome to Game Over Toronto. We are coming off a 2-1 shootout loss, and it's a sad time. Not only because the Leafs lost, but also because we had to watch the shootout, because we all love the shootout.
1-1 game. Who doesn't love a 1-1 game that ends in a shootout, right?
Yep,
in the middle of the week.
A very high octane offense game, especially after that OT too. That was actually interesting. And then we got to cut it off. I'm your host, Armaan. With me is, of course, Lauren, and we have a very special guest today, and we have a lot to talk about. But before we get into it, want to bet? It's March Mania at Sports Interaction. NHL, NBA, March Madness, MLB, and so much more. It's bananas. Play Pinata Picks and Minute Madness, exclusive games with insane odds you can't play anywhere else. So make your next bet with Sports Interaction. You can download the app if you're in Ontario. You could use the QR code at the bottom of the screen or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. And please remember, it's 18 plus and also to play responsibly. We have a very special guest today and we have a lot to talk about. NHL writer and an analyst over at The Athletic, NHL writer and analyst over at Maple Leafs Hot Stove, and co-host of the Everything Leafs podcast. It's the brilliant Kevin Papetti.
Thanks for having me. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit of bad luck with the shootout there, but I'll have to try better in the future.
Yeah, we're hoping to get you in on a better game than that, but you know, it's the way it goes. You never know with these two losses in a row too. You know, we're kind of hoping that it was going to be a bounce back game after that Buffalo one.
Yeah, I was actually at the Buffalo game and off to a great start there, and then I guess ever since the second period of that game, the third period of that game, I guess it was a decent start tonight with the early goal for Riley, but after that, just not many shots on goal for the Leafs, a lot of penalties, not exactly ideal. I don't know if there's going to be some lineup changes as a result or what's going on, but hopefully a better effort going forward.
It was similar vibes, like, you know, right off the hop, we were kind of looking good. Riley rings it off the post. Like, I don't know how early that was in the game, and then he ends up scoring.
Seconds.
Yeah,
it was 51 seconds in.
3.5 minutes in, I think he scored the first goal, and then since then it was just like they just took the night off. So
the Leafs scored again, just for the wrong team.
Yeah, it's also unfortunate. Like, I feel bad for McCabe there. Like,
he had a rough night.
Yeah. I mean,
he had a rough couple shifts, and he was clearly upset with himself after that Avs goal. I mean, you know, it's funny because there wasn't a lot of offense really on either side, even though the Leafs were, at least towards the end of the game, dominating in offensive zone time. But it just didn't feel like they were getting the same opportunities that they were handing so nicely to the Avalanche in the other direction. Like, Kevin, what do you think? Are you surprised that they had as much puck zone time as they had, considering how tilted it was?
Yeah, I thought the Matthews line with Yarncroke there, obviously with the 11-7 forward thing, it's a little bit hard to tell who's with who. There's a lot of mixing and matching, but I thought Yarncroke with Matthews Marner kind of worked. They kind of got some chances, but other than that, there's really no second line to speak of tonight. Third line, a lot of work, I guess, on the perimeter, especially late there in the third, but not too many high danger chances. I think the power plays are, I guess, okay, a decent puck movement, but you know, this team is really focused on defense right now, whether it's, you know, you look at the players they have, guys like Aston Reese, guys like Kampf, they're not exactly great scorers. Obviously, Kerfoot's in a bit of a slump. He's probably more known for his defensive play as well. So even players like McCabe, even like Luke Shen, they've gone all in on defense. And it's just one of those games where you would have liked to see a little bit more chances, a little bit more, you know, high danger creation, because it just wasn't there. You had some time on the perimeter, I guess, but nothing really in the slot for the most part, at least.
Yeah, I actually have written down, like, after Riley scores, Matthews gets a couple good looks. He was looking really good at the beginning of this game. He was moving around. He was getting really good opportunities. He had a really nice shot, and then that deflection that was just barely saved by Georgiev to start the game as well. And you're right, Kevin. He was the only player that I really noticed on the ice today. Like, Sammy was great tonight too. Like, he was probably the Leafs' best player by a landslide. But I think the only two players that were really visible were Samsonov and
I thought Yarncroke also had a good game. I thought he was one of the best. And I thought Riley was pretty decent as well. But yeah, not the best game overall. And, you know, speaking, like, you know, Colorado had 29 shots on goal, and we had 18 by the end of it. But also, we had 22 block shots total.
Mhm.
So, like, we were just giving them, in terms of like Corsi, it was lopsided. So yeah, it's not the best. You know, I expect more from this team offensively in terms of shot generation.
Yeah, they got a bit of a break there on that penalty. It wasn't a penalty right at the end of the game, that puck over glass. I
Yeah,
thought it was a penalty, but
we all
they did.
thought it was in the Zoom call.
They went to the commercial there, so we
Yeah,
didn't really get the best look of it. But I guess they got a bit of a break. It was a little bit of a lopsided penalties. I think I don't have the count in front of me, but it felt like the Leafs were on the penalty kill for most of the night. I guess that would have helped in terms of the low shot total and more for Colorado. But I guess it is an accomplishment holding that team to just one goal, and I mean the shootout doesn't really count. But at the same time, like it was pretty boring on the Leafs end. You need to see at least a little bit more offense. Sometimes it feels like they're a little bit too on the boring side. I know years ago, the early years of the Matthews years, they were kind of known as this iffy defensive team that had tons of offense, and now they're definitely better defensively than they used to be all those years ago. But I don't know if the offense is really grown by leaps and bounds.
yeah. It seems like the only person who's really generating a ton of rush chances is William Nylander on this team right now. Uh, in terms of like rush offense, we don't really have a ton there. We play more of a cycle game. But yeah, it's just been a tough couple games in terms of offensive generation.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we see Bobby McMahon at some point, if they go the 12-6, or it's just odd right now. I know they want to play everyone. I get it. That makes sense, but I think that's back-to-back games where you look at like the Lafferty line, and I know Lafferty was basically had just terrible by the numbers against Buffalo. I think it was the case tonight.
Yeah.
The Tavares line did nothing. I don't know if it's just lack of rhythm or just
I
Colorado's a really good team or what happened, but not exactly ideal.
Yeah, I think placing Marner with Tavares is the right move, and then putting Nylander with Matthews. I just think it works better. But I in the playoffs, I assume it's still going to be Matthews Marner, which I'm okay with. I mean, they're a great line together, but just to get Tavares going, I think Marner's the much better player.
Yeah.
Well,
We haven't seen much of O'Reilly either, right? So that'll be the
Yeah,
other.
that's true.
yeah, that is the other part of it, right? Because he only had 5 games and then he got hurt, and now he won't be back until 2 or 3 games before the playoffs. And so obviously that's a tough break for him. You make a good point about wondering if Bobby McMahon, who's again just dominating on the Marlies right now, if he gets another shot. And I think maybe the last game that he had maybe wasn't his best, but we can only hope that he would, if he was to come back and be somebody in the bottom 6, because with the way that the last 2 games have gone, and we were doing the 11-7 experiment, that's done, right? Like, you try it once, and if it doesn't work, okay, well, maybe you just got unlucky. And tonight they did play really well defensively, right? There's no questioning that, right? But it's hard to win a game when you only score 1 goal, right? Like, you can do it, but it sucks and it's hard. And obviously you can't have every game be like, you can't play every game like you're playing against the Oilers where there's just 6 or 7 goals scored on each side. But it's hard to win a game when you only score 1 goal. And it looked a little bit like Kelly Yarncroke. It would have almost these flashes of like Zach Hyman light, like not full Zach Hyman, but he would have these moments where he would go into the corner and dig it out and be in a good position, and then he would just sort of vanish again. So do you think maybe trying somebody in the chat actually brought this up. Do you think trying Sam Lafferty in the top 6 could be a fun little mix up?
Well, he's coming off 2 rough games, so I don't know. It's tough with the lines right now. With you kind of have a fake line at some point because there's only 2 players on it. But I thought Lafferty played well when he's at center. Now he's kind of, I guess, switching back and forth a little bit. But with Yarncroke, he was a player who really struggled in the bottom 6 to start the year, and then whenever he's in the top 6, seems to have pretty good results. And he does kind of remind me of Hyman. Obviously he's not quite as good as Hyman, but he's just someone who's willing to go to the net. He's kind of ferocious on the forecheck. He's got good finishing ability. He's got a wicked shooting percentage. I thought he played well tonight, and I remember Yarncroke in the preseason. I think his first game had 2 goals with Matthews.
Yeah.
So he's not the best playmaker, but neither was Hyman. So who knows? Maybe that works. I'm interested to see it. I haven't really liked Bunting as of late. I know Keefe's kind of in the same boat. In terms of Lafferty, I still think it's experiment mode. So I guess the issue is that he would probably play the right side. He's a right shot. And then you have Nylander Marner on the right side. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we're going to have a very small sample with O'Reilly, but I'm wondering if O'Reilly becomes almost a second line center come playoff time. If he's, former Selke winner, I could see him getting
and move Tavares to the wing.
I think it could be Tavares as the third line center. Like,
oh, really?
They have two options there, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see a ton of it, but I could see, O'Reilly, former Selke winner, getting the tough matchups, and then Tavares kind of beating up on easier competition. Because I think one issue with the Leafs in the playoffs, I mean, there's a lot of them, but over the last couple of years, Tavares hasn't produced that 5-on-5. That line, Matthews did last year. That line played pretty well. The Tavares line went quiet and they got shut down. So, maybe you load him with offensive zone starts. Maybe him and Nylander, you cut their minutes a tad. Not that that's ideal, but with O'Reilly, just because of the small sample there, we really don't have a sense of what they're going to do there. So it could be Tavares to the wing. We'll see how, I guess, the bottom six does. I'm kind of curious to see if Achari can bounce back. He's on a bit of a heater there. If he can drive his own line, then maybe Tavares to the wing makes sense. But I still think my preference would be Tavares, O'Reilly, Matthews down the middle, and just, try to overwhelm them with three lines.
We talked about this in the last game against the Sabres. What do you think the possibility is of Matthew Knies coming into play in the playoffs?
I think it's really going to depend on when he gets here and how he looks. I think it's less than 50% would be my guess. I just think this team or Sheldon Keefe has been very conservative throughout the year. Like, you just look at his lineup choices. I mean, Zach Aston-Reese has less than 10 points right now, and he's in there every night. I think he's been out of the lineup twice.
Yeah.
You look at even like their decision to keep Kerfoot, who's a very responsible defensive winger. You look at just, how he was praising Holmberg as a more defensive player. You don't really see like the Galchenyuks anymore, or the Tyson Berries. I mean, Eric Gustafson's kind of here, I think, if there's injuries to maybe like Morgan Riley or something, but they're super conservative, it seems, which is making me feel that Knies won't be in the playoff lineup. But yet again, if there's an injury, like if Michael Bunting gets hurt, for example, I don't know if you really have too many players that could jump up in the top six and play a skilled role, right? Like, it's not like Aston-Reese can jump up and take a shift with Matthews. You don't want that. I don't know about Lafferty. Like, I don't know if that's ideal. So I guess it is health dependent. They are only playing 11 forwards right now. O'Reilly should be healthy by then, or at least playing, but I guess injuries might be the key question. But I guess the other thing's McMahon, right? Like, if you're going to play McMahon, you probably got to call him up soon and give him a bit of a tryout, because if he doesn't come up in the next week or two, there's no way he's going to be the playoff lineup.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of now or never for him. We'll see how he does. And then McMahon could take Knies out of a job. I mean, I guess Knies could come here and just dominate and look great, and then maybe he's got a spot. But I think it'll be very sheltered minutes. Obviously, he's not going to be used to the system. He's not used to NHL speed. So his home rink is, I think it's the international size ice. So it's just going to be not that he doesn't play in regular size rinks, but it'll be interesting. I think his teams are going to do pretty well. So it might be a little while till we see him in Toronto, unfortunately.
It would definitely be a tricky adjustment, but it's funny. Like, this is just me on my way home as these things are being tweeted, with Ryan Tverberg signing the the future ELC contract. And
that scared a lot of people.
I know. And it's funny because I was looking at it and I was like, future means it's not right now, which means we still have 49, which means we can still sign Matthew Knies. But it's just if it comes to it, you have no radio signal and these things are happening. And it's interesting because obviously the wording of that is on purpose because it doesn't count right now. And Tverberg's going to be, I believe, on a PTO for the rest of the season, including the Calder Cup playoff run for the Marlies, which will be great. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, obviously Tverberg isn't going to come up right now, but I don't think we should pin the hopes and dreams of the Leafs making it to the third round or the second round with Matthew Knies being the breaking point of that, because if you put your hopes and dreams on somebody that's coming to the NHL for their first game, maybe not a step for success, right? So do you think that if it's not Bobby McMahon, like say something else happens, do you think all of a sudden then there's maybe a little bit more pressure to try and sign Nyes?
I think he's gonna play the remainder of the season, like the Frozen Four. We'll see how they do, and then he'll come out as soon as they're eliminated. I think Leafs fans are kind of cheering against Minnesota, unfortunately, because they want Nyes to, I guess, fail for now, so they can get to the Leafs a little bit sooner. But I guess if they did lose a little bit earlier, he gets a little bit more of a tryout. He can impress. But if it is just a game or two, I haven't looked at the exact timeline of when the final would be and how many games left Nyes would have. But it is going to be a pretty short tryout, right? And
a hard adjustment.
Unless he's going to start off like Matthews with the 4 goals, it's going to be tough. Yeah. I could see, but however, I think you want to get him to some games, see what you have, see how he meshes well, get him some confidence heading into next year, and then if you are going on a deep playoff run, you're expecting some injuries. So I wouldn't be shocked if he went into the lineup at some point. But they don't have a ton of forward depth right now. I mentioned McMahon, but I don't really see Wayne Simmons coming into the picture. He hasn't played. It's not like he's game ready, I don't think. So they are a little bit short on options if people start getting hurt. So let's hope it doesn't come to that at least.
For sure.
Yeah, they've got like Holmberg, McMahon, Steves, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't see Steves in the playoffs. I'd be shocked.
I highly doubt it.
I guess the other thing too is we don't know if they're going to go 12-6 for sure. If they could go the 11-7, and then if they do the 11-7, Nyes' chances are pretty slim, I would think.
Pretty much none, yeah. I'd be surprised if they went the 11-7, yeah. But it's still possible. I know they're definitely going to consider it. But right now, I think it's mainly an evaluation thing. The other thing is, like, Mitch played 29 minutes today.
Oh, my God.
Which is ridiculous.
It still didn't McCarr play like 33 minutes the other night or something? They said it on the broadcast, which is just wild. Like, that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, but he's a defenseman.
Games. No, I know, but still, like, oh, well, I mean, there was at least 4 penalties on each side tonight. And
he had a lot of PK time.
I bet producer. Yeah, 5 penalties, 5 power plays for the Avs, and then 3 for the Leafs. So it was a little bit more lopsided in terms of penalties. There was maybe a couple that could have been called on each side that weren't. But with all that, that's got to be at least like 6 or 7 minutes of PK time for Marner alone, not to mention power play time as well, right? So, I mean, it's kind of troubling that even with the Leafs getting 3 power plays, that with 12 minutes left to go, they had a grand total of 12 shots on goal. 12 shots.
Yep. They definitely need to generate more offense.
Yikes. Like, the power play didn't look awful tonight, but it didn't look great. Like, there was definitely a couple good chances, but it just seemed like a lot of sort of passing around the outside and not really trying to put anything on net, which has been a problem historically with the Leafs, right? Not putting pucks on net.
There were a couple good chances against as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't been too good with that, like suppressing the shorthanded chances against.
Yeah, but, it's sort of been a trade-off, right? Like, our PK has gotten really good, but our power play is looking worse and worse as time goes on.
Yeah. But I think it's also just an evaluation period right now, like, with the 11-7 situation. And I don't think it's going to change next game either, because we're probably going to have Luke Shannon, and then there's going to be a need to evaluate there as well. My question is, who comes out when Shen comes in? Is it Gustafsson? Is it Timmins? Is it Liljegren? Like, my guess is it's going to be Gustafsson coming out, or Timmins, one of the two, because they sort of...
Well, Timmins is out, right? So it'd be Gustafsson, Liljegren,
or Hall, which that's not happening.
Yeah. So I guess my guess would be Gustafsson, but I wouldn't be surprised if Liljegren comes out for a game as well. I didn't like his game against Buffalo. Thought he was okay tonight, but he's come out in the past, right? So I don't know. Yeah. That'd be one of my guesses. I thought Hall actually played pretty well tonight. Obviously a tough assignment against the Avalanche. The Leafs didn't give up a 5-on-5 goal. I think McCabe looked pretty good actually, other than the own goal,
Yeah.
which is kind of a big negative. But it's a tough way to get your first as a Leaf. But I still
And
think that
he
him
was
and
so upset.
yeah, he slammed the stick there.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think he'll be okay. Like his
Yeah.
transition defense is pretty good. His net front defense is pretty good. He's strong. He brings an element. I think Justin Hall is actually playing fairly well as of late. So, he's kind of peaking at the right time here. We'll see. We'll see what Sheldon Keefe decides. I'm not sure if it's going to be a rotation. Obviously, you want to keep everyone fresh. I don't really see Timmins coming in anytime soon, but
Yeah.
I think the
Only
other
if there's
8.
injuries.
I think the other 8 they're going to keep fresh, rotate to some degree. I'm sure Liljegren's going to be out eventually, at least for a game or two. But you do want guys feeling comfortable and knowing the system and playing with different partners before the playoffs start. Because if you're Gustafsson, I think you do need to play him a little bit, just so if you do end up having injuries, at least he's familiar with the system. At least he's played with some of these guys before, with at least more than a handful of minutes, let's say.
Well, and I think it might be, I think you're right, Kevin. I think it might end up being Liljegren simply because he hasn't had the greatest couple of games. Now, I do think that he would be playing better if he played more consistently, but I digress. Similar to how Rasmus Sandin has been playing better because he's been consistent. I digress. Also, extra stick tap for Rasmus Sandin, who took a puck off the back of his leg today and had to be assisted off the ice. I don't know if you guys saw that. Oh, did he? Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Then I don't wish him well. Just kidding. Obviously, like, I think it ends up being Liljegren that comes out because Shen was practicing with the team today, but they're gonna have to practice with him tomorrow, and then they want to have him have a practice before he plays a game, which is fine. But right before you came in, Kevin, we were talking about, do you think that maybe the reason the defenses look kind of flustered is because they have these new guys and they're playing with them with all these different people and not giving them a chance to get any kind of chemistry with them?
Maybe at the start. I think tonight was actually definitely a positive for the defense. I mean, there was so many power plays on, I guess, mostly Colorado's end, but I guess the Leafs had a few as well. Maybe a little bit of a choppy 5-on-5 time. We didn't really have consistent 5-on-5 play, but the defense was pretty good. I mean, no goals against. Samsonov might have bailed them out a time or two. I thought that shutdown pair of McCabe Hall was pretty good. After that, though, like, it is tough to know what Keefe's going to do. I don't know if we're going to see Riley Brody next game. I don't know if we're going to see Riley Shen. I think we have only seen Shen with Riley so far. So it's really, I don't even know if Keefe knows what he's going to do. I think it just might be experimentation mode. Try things out, see what works, see what doesn't work. I actually think Gustafsson's been okay. Like, I know he had that first initial play, but I haven't really noticed him defensively, which is a good thing because obviously he has some offensive talent, but I'm worried about him defensively. And other than that one power play goal to kind of a minute into his Leafs tenure, I haven't really noticed him too much on the defensive end, which I suppose is a positive if you do end up needing him come playoff time.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Liljegren comes out, because Gustafsson is already looking that good and he's already playing on the power play, right? Like, they're giving him a look on it. And if you, like you said, if this is the experimentation time and if you want to be fooling around with the power play, then maybe now is the time to keep Gustafsson in the lineup over Liljegren, because we've seen Liljegren on the power play and it's not terrible, but it's not good. But we don't know what we have in terms of chemistry wise with Gustafsson because he is new, but he did so well in Washington that you sort of have to think to some degree that they're going to give him an extended look on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to want to play Shen. They're going to want to get back him in game shape and comfortable and familiar with the system. So I don't know if it's going to be a rotation of who comes out, if it's going to be Liljegren one game, Hall the other. I hope to see Liljegren pretty consistently at least. I would lean towards playing him in the playoffs if it started today. I know some people are strongly opinionated about that. I do think that they do lean a little bit too defense focused at times. In terms of lineup decisions, whether it's been, I think you look at it tonight, and it did kind of have a playoff feel in the sense that it was, not a ton of space out there. It wasn't overly physical. It was a boring game, but a lot of those playoff games you got to win 2-1. It felt like one of those games at least.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it does feel like you could use another puck mover. That's the one pro I kind of like about the 11-7. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it overall, but if you are losing, you can play Gustafsson more or Liljegren more, and if you're winning, then maybe Shen gets more minutes. I don't exactly know how it's going to work. We haven't really seen it to its full potential. It seems like right now they're just balancing the minutes quite a bit. It's not, if they do go with this come playoff time, if Gustafsson's in, he's going to play like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, I think. I don't think he's getting the 16. And I think Riley and Brody, those guys are getting over 20 minutes. McCabe's probably getting over 20 minutes come playoff time. So we haven't really seen the playoff style 11-7. I don't know if that's going to change things. I don't know if that's what they do down the stretch, but I do think that decision is probably more about just getting guys comfortable. And I think the O'Reilly injury maybe led to that a little bit more, but it is weird having 9 defensemen on a team. Like, I don't think I've ever seen this.
Yeah. In the trade deadline, like, how would you evaluate how the Leafs did? Would you have wanted them to, instead of getting, Gustafsson or Shen, go out and get another winger? Or do you see that as just like you're going to need more defensemen than you need, than 6 in the playoffs with injuries and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, Gustafsson and Shen are both under the millions, so it's tough to find a winger for that. I get why they got Shen. Like, I think he's a good depth guy to have on the right side. I do think that there's a chance that, he's in the lineup and he's worse than Liljegren and you end up as a net negative. But
yeah,
assuming that Shen's playing well, or assuming that Sheldon Keefe is, making smart lineup decisions that are benefiting the team, then it's just a matter of, it's always nice to have another player at that point, right? So I like the Shen acquisition. Gustafsson was a bit odd, but I understand it, because if Riley goes down, you really don't have a lot of puck movers. Gustafsson actually has like wicked numbers in his career in terms of goal differential. Like, when he's on the ice, the Leafs, not the Leafs, all the teams he's been on like 5 different teams. They all outscore their opponents when he's on the ice. So I haven't seen enough of him. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention to him. I don't think he's going to be in the game 1 playoff lineup, but I guess you never know. I don't think Keefe knows his playoff lineup at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different team too. Like, I don't know how many acquisitions it was. I think it was 8, which is insane to work with.
I do think another forward, though, like on a night like tonight, you could really see the value, especially if you have an injury. Like, we've already seen the O'Reilly injury, but
yeah, one
more forward would have been nice. Obviously, Kerfoot isn't producing right now. He's great defensively, but they just have so many defensive forwards like Camp, Aston Reese, Kerfoot, even Yarncroke or Achari. They're more kind of defensive leaning, I would say. Obviously, their core forwards are more offensively tilted, or a bit of an even split if you're Marner, but they are a little bit maybe too defensive focused for me. I'm just kind of curious to see what that means come playoff time when it comes into matchups. I mean,
yeah,
it is nice to have those guys out there and feel like they're not going to get scored on, but it's also hard to see an Aston Reese, a Camp, or I guess Camp scored last year, but a Kerfoot scoring on Vasilevsky, right? Like,
yeah,
it seems like there's not a ton of shooting talent, and they're going to need guys like Achari, who's looked pretty good, but can he do it come playoff time? Can a guy like Lafferty chip in? Because we haven't really seen much offense from him. So I don't know if I love the offense right now. I guess Nyes and McMahon, maybe one of them steps up and surprises, but they could use one more scoring threat at the bottom of the lineup. Maybe O'Reilly fixes that, but after the last couple games here, it's been a bit of a concern.
I was actually going to say it felt a little bit tonight like they were missing somebody like Ryan O'Reilly in the lineup. That's what it felt like.
I mean, that could change a lot. Yeah.
That's what it felt like, right? Like, if we look at how they played when O'Reilly was on the line with in the middle with Tavares on his wing, like, the Leafs were playing really well on both ends in both zones, and it was great. And we can't wait to have him back, because like you said, Kevin, it feels like they're missing just a little bit of something, and hopefully that little something recovers quicker than a month, Ryan. So
I'm kind of interested to see O'Reilly in that 11-7. I don't know if we'll see it, but if they just ran Matthews, Tavares, O'Reilly up the middle,
yeah,
the extra shift, I don't know. Maybe it works. So far, not so good, but maybe maybe we get there once they're at full strength. I don't know.
Well, it'll be nice to have the option either way, but either way, we will be there after all of those games, regardless of the outcome. Just like we were here tonight after the Leafs fell to the Colorado Avalanche and Nathan McKinnon in the shootout, unfortunately, on this Wednesday night, where we got to have our friend and friend of the show, Kevin Papetti, on. Kevin, it was so wonderful to have you. Please tell the people in the chat where they can find you if they don't follow you already.
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm at Gabe Papetti, Papetti, and then you can find my articles at I write for The Athletic and I write for Maple Leafs Hot Stove. So hopefully I'm on report cards a couple times this week, and then hopefully I'll have another article out in the next week or two as well. I'm hoping to stay busy during the playoff run. I'm hoping there's a long playoff run to write report cards for, but I guess we'll see. So normally we only get 7 games, but maybe we'll have 20 or something. That's the goal.
That's the dream, man. That's the dream right there. Well, Kevin, thank you for coming on again. And thank you to the chat for following tonight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're listening and it is Thursday morning, it has been Lauren Williamson hosting with Armaan Panthaki. Armaan, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
At Armaan Panthaki. It's just my name. So it's pretty easy.
And you can find me. I am Lauren in the 6 at Lauren in the 6 on Twitter. Please make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow Kevin. Make sure you subscribe to The Athletic if you do not already. It is worth every single dime because of the amazing articles that they pop out. Kevin, thank you again for coming on tonight. It has been wonderful having you. And let's hope that you're writing an A+ for everybody after the Leafs win the cup. Game 28. Let's go.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.